if for many, and unfortunately for many, it's fame or success, you know, and by success I mean like maybe having lots of money or a bunch of awards, you're probably not on the right path, in my opinion. I realized years ago that I wanted to create my own light, specifically like Ravi Shankar. I went through a period of just listening to a lot of his music. Thousands upon millions of people love what they're doing because they found their way, they found their voice, they found their artistic vision. And there's no one that's going to master you better than you. So once you reach that level, it will reach other people if you want it to. And yeah, it is this process from perception to reflection to then the evolution. I was a musicien de métro, which is the musician of the metro, evolving and creating better art every time you work on it or release it. Who is Moses? Well,
Hi, Moses.
hi Megha.
So I am in Bombay, India, and you are sitting in
Aveiro, Portugal.
beautiful. It's India meeting Europe today in Voice of Artist. May I request you to close
Yeah,
your
it's
eyes
true.
for me?
Sure.
Go back to your childhood for me, the year of your choice, and tell us how you saw the world. Where were you, and what was your childhood like? You can open your eyes if you want.
Okay. Where was I in the world? Well, I was, as a child, I was born and I was raised in New Jersey, in the United States. And I would say that most of my distinct memories as a child, specifically from, I don't know, like when I had a certain consciousness to kind of have an opinion about the world, maybe at 9 or 10, you start kind of sort of understanding things. I was kind of just thought of the world as somewhat of a magical kind of thing. And pretty early on, always had this desire to want to see as much of it as possible. Yeah, to travel and just to try to see.
Right. That sense of magic that you
Yeah.
felt, is that how music came into your life?
I would say the curiosity, yeah, this like curious side of just like wanting to explore. Again, this thing of kind of wanting to travel, maybe see the world, realizing that, you know, we live on this planet and there's so much to see and so much to do. So having this explorer type of side, which is something I still have today, which I've kind of carried with me from my childhood years. But the music was something that actually happened kind of early on, just the love for listening to music. And you know, going through my parents' CDs or vinyls and listening to the music and just being so immersed by the music and the emotion of the music and everything. But one of my real experiences with it started more with just seeing a guitar and kind of being a bit intrigued by the acoustic guitar, which happened actually here in Portugal, because I would come from the US to Portugal to visit my family who was here, my grandparents and all of that. And I remember one of my uncles who plays the Portuguese guitar, which is a very specific type of guitar, which is used in the Portuguese music fado. It's like it's a very traditional Portuguese kind of music. It has almost like a bit of a somber or almost sad kind of sound or vibe. But he used to play the Portuguese guitar, and he had a couple other instruments. And I remember once seeing the acoustic guitar, and just for whatever reason, that thing inside of me, that curiosity and this wanting to kind of explore, I asked him to borrow it. And before I could ever, well, really before any internet courses or YouTube or anything even existed, I remember that summer vacation just trying to make sounds with the guitar. Again, this kind of like exploration, discovery, curiosity. And I stumbled upon a guitar chord, which is like the E major chord, but I didn't know what it was. And just realizing like, wow, I can play this around. And almost from the very beginning, just kind of already messing around and trying to even write music when I didn't even really know anything about it. But yeah, so it's something that's carried over from my childhood, yeah.
You mentioned Fado. I remember a couple of years ago, I was introduced to this Portuguese form of music and this band Madre Dias, and I think that's what we had also talked about. Oh Pastor is the song that I remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Yeah, pretty good. Madre Dios, yeah. It's a great group.
So you mentioned the intrigue that you felt when you held a guitar for the first time. I'm curious, your experience growing up in the US and then coming back to Portugal, how did this change the geographical exposure, the cultural exposure across the globe, change your intrigue or experience with music or musical instruments? Did that have a role to play in it?
Well, with music specifically, yeah, if it wasn't for this experience coming to Portugal and seeing some of my uncles who had like guitars, because where I grew up in New Jersey, I later met friends who played guitar, and even I had an experience where I even started to do DJing with like turntables because I lived next to a DJ. He let me start using his equipment, and those were some of my first musical experiences in the United States. But it was really because of coming here and having, you know, this uncle with the guitars and a cousin, his daughter, my cousin, who played piano, and just having this again, this curiosity and being intrigued already by the music. I guess my soul was already kind of, you know, calling for it to a degree. But within this, having these two different countries, overall, it kind of like developed and enriched my overall musical experience, like having the folk Portuguese music, which is called rancho. And when I was younger, this type of Portuguese dance and singing and typical folk instruments are really used in like more of the mountains or throughout the whole country. But it's this very specific kind of dance, and where they're dressed in a certain way, very traditional, and the singing is a very specific traditional type of singing. When I was even living in the United States, in a community where there were many Portuguese people, for example, there were Portuguese clubs where they would do this dancing. So I was kind of exposed to the many traditional or cultural Portuguese traditions in both sides of both, even in the States and in Portugal. But obviously, growing up in the United States, like getting exposed to all of the musical influence that exists there as well. So it's very interesting having those two kinds of, I would say, musical landscapes geographically kind of split apart the Atlantic Ocean. But yeah, so they both kind of had a really big impact on what I do, and even more or less my musical journey to date.
Interesting. And from that day to today, you have actually made songs and written songs which are very global in nature. Like one of your songs, Imagination, actually talks about Indian culture. So how did that happen?
Well, again, it's I think a lot is rooted back to being an explorer. A lot kind of this desire to just want to discover things. And the Imagination song that has this what I would say like an Indian touch to it musically is really my love for a lot of Asian and Indian music, specifically like Ravi Shankar. I went through a period of just listening to a lot of his music, and diving deeper into other musical artists from India, from other Asian artists as well, from around the other Asian countries, as I've loved to do with lots of different styles, like styles from Africa, from the Caribbean countries. I had experiences in my life where I got to play with groups from Haiti, a Caribbean country next to the Dominican Republic. I got to play with some of those musicians. I got exposed to a lot of different cultures. So even though my base was kind of this rock alternative sound, I kind of decided that I wanted to incorporate some of these influences. And this is why in the song Imagination, at the time I was listening a lot to Ravi Shankar, and actually a guy which I believe he's not Indian. I believe his name is Prem Joshua, and he is he also
Prem
plays
Joshua,
he plays the sitar and the flute, and I had stumbled on some of his music, and I was like, wow, this guy, look what he's doing, and he's from Holland, I think, or the Netherlands, the same country, and he was making this amazing music with an Indian vibe, and that also really influenced me. It made me think, why shouldn't I just mix it into what I do? Because I love the music so much, like why not incorporate it into my own style? So Imagination was the first song where I included the sitar and certain kind of other percussive instruments, just to give it a bit of more of an Indian and global vibe. Yeah.
Beautiful. This sense of exploration and the fact that there is an explorer in all of us is precisely why we created this platform called Voice of Artists, so that we can help people bring out their explorer side, their artistic side. So welcome to Voice of Artists, Moses. We are very, very happy to have you here. How are you feeling?
Great, and thank you for the invite, and it's a pleasure to be part of this journey with you guys, and to be part of the whole experience, the VOA experience. We kind of already touched upon this in some of our messages back and forth, but I really find it very, very interesting, the fact that the word VOA in Portuguese means to fly. So I'm looking at the VOA plaque, and it's a Portuguese word that says fly. So to me, it's awesome, like how it for me in a personal way, living in Portugal and having the Portuguese connection, just like, oh wow, if this isn't some kind of a sign from the universe, then I don't know what is, Anyway, so yeah, it's really cool, but it is a pleasure to be a part of it.
A pleasure is all ours, and it actually is, what you touched upon, it is, if this is not a sign, then what is? Do you believe in a global or a universal artistic energy?
Yes. I do believe in, well, first of all, a global universal energy, without getting too much into a spiritual context, even though I'm pretty spiritual myself as a person, which is probably why I believe that there is a certain kind of artistic energy that kind of flows through our universe and our planet among us as human beings. Firstly, even just not as an artist, just as a human being, I feel that we have a certain energy that is kind of flowing through everything and all of us. And then I think on an artistic level, it's definitely the type of energy or force that fuels the artists or brings them together. In this case, the Voice of Artist project, like the fact that we're thousands of miles or kilometers apart, and something brought us together, So obviously we have social media, and we have, it's a lot easier today, but I definitely believe in an overall global energy among us as humans, and the even deeper connection as artists.
Do you believe that this energy has the power to, like you said, bring people closer, but can it also become a positive force in the world across countries?
Without a doubt, yeah. Without a doubt, I do believe that music, specifically as a musician, as my main art form, I do believe has a huge power that kind of, and it's proven constantly as far as it being a language where, a very emotional language where sometimes we don't understand what a singer is saying, or it's an instrumental piece of music that can connect two people from two different parts of the globe. At the same moment in time, two people might be listening to the same song and be brought to tears, though they don't even know it's happening. So, and the fact that it's kind of happened in the past already, where musicians and artists have come together to, have concerts or organize events to maybe raise money or to do things to create consciousness or to help groups of people. So yeah, without a doubt, I would say that music and art or art in general, has an enormous power to change people and to change the society and progress the world in a very positive way.
You talked about how art and music in particular has the power to bring people closer and also bring about a positive change in the society, and two people listening to the same song at the same time without even words, right? And I remember an experience that happened with me when I was listening to Holocene by Bon Iver, and one of my close friends was listening to it in some other part of the world, and we happened to chat at the same time, and we sent a screenshot of what we're listening to, and it was the same song at the same time. And it was crazy because that made me realize that songs and music in general can actually connect at a much deeper level, which sometimes we can't really explain. And the second example that happened with me was when I was listening to an instrumental piece of music, and written form is my natural form of art, writing either prose or poetry. And on that instrumental piece, an entire piece of poem kind of came to me. I will not say I wrote it, it came to me, it felt like that. So, how does music move you, and what are your experiences with music, or with the music itself, or words, or what you create, or how you create? What is your experience that has moved you, which you can't maybe explain?
Yeah, that's a deep question and offers a deep response. Music, how does it move me? Well, being my best form or way of expression, it's very special to me. Physical aspect of performing, like playing the instrument or performing for people, has a very powerful impact on me. And learning the guitar was going through that whole process of trying to really learn an instrument, get it the best you can, trying to not be a perfectionist, but just trying to figure out how you can play the best you can to then express yourself with it. So there's that whole side of the music. There's the side of just being a listener and a fan, where as I was growing up listening to just amazing songs and amazing records of so many different artists and groups, which would be hard to even just start to name because there's so many. But just listening to so much good music and realizing at a very young age as a fan and a listener, just how much it can make you feel like you. This was years ago when there were still CD players and headphones and things where we use headphones today, but just the fact that you'd have your headphones on and your CD player, you'd go out and buy your CDs and you'd be you'd read the lyrics and then you'd listen to the music and it just have this immersive feeling, which people have today. I'm not saying it's not the same, but in that period for me, it was like this whole experience, you know, buying the CD, listening to it as a fan, and just being emotionally taken by the music, just being completely almost obsessed by the group or the artist or the lyrics or the pictures. So it had, as a fan, it had this huge impact. And now as someone who can, in a, I would say, a very humble way, because I wouldn't say that I'm an amazing singer or guitar player or virtuoso of either instrument, but I feel where I'm able to now, when I feel something, express what I want to feel, or even better, I'm able to let that energy come, and I now have the ability to let it come out. Because when you're trying to learn your instrument, you're in that phase of, wow, what are the notes? What are the chords? How do I play this? What's this? But then when you finally have that to a degree where you can kind of just almost just go with the flow, almost even just mess around, experiment with chords, experiment with things. And then a lot of my music, to get to that, is a process of, a continual process of just exploration, trying things. And even more so today, because I've reached the point where as a singer or as a guitarist or instrumentalist, I can easily play well enough what I want to come out in the beginning. And then it's just kind of like just letting it come. You know, a lot of the songs in the last few years that I've worked on have been experiences of just letting them come. Like not specifically taking a notepad and writing it down or saying, you know, there might be some songs where I have some kind of an idea where I want to talk about this or that, or I want a specific lyric or something. But lately, it's like trying to just tap in to that spiritual connection that I feel the music and art, but specifically for me, again, music allows you to tap into. There is something, which is why I think many people believe music is a very spiritual thing, and why there's even the style of music called soul music, because it, you know, for them they really a spiritual thing. And I've had the pleasure of even playing in like some churches and seeing gospel music, and it really is this force of energy and sound and frequencies and energies. So with my own writing and composing and creating, it's really just kind of using my experience as a musician and just now letting that energy come and letting it fill me with something. And sometimes even the words, they're not even real words at the beat. Sometimes it's just like humming melodies, and these melodies just pop into your head, and it's like, oh, where's that coming from? But one thing that I can say, just to kind of, I guess, touch on how profound it can be, is I can be here in my studio space and I'll start playing something, and maybe I'll use like a loop pedal, which is you can record just kind of like spontaneously in the moment. And I'll start recording something, and I'll get something that really sounds good, and I'm like, and then it inspires me to just sing a melody. I don't even know what the words are. Sometimes the words come, a few words just kind of come, and then I'll start doing something, and it'll just turn into like almost a 30-minute or 1 hour jam session. But there's been moments that I've been like brought to tears playing, you know, where the emotion that's being created just alone, just working on music and just feeling this sense of something like almost feeding you this, you become almost just like a vessel, you know. It's actually pretty amazing. I don't think that it's hard to explain, but if there was one kind of personal truth or almost proof of some kind of spiritual energy, it's that. Because it's the only time I can say to people that there's like with no doubt that there is something else, because it's not me doing it. it doesn't feel like it's me, you know? It just feels like it's me opening my arms and saying, yeah, whatever comes, just let it come out. And then when that happens, it's not all the time also, but when you just let it flow, and when it does happen, it's it's awesome, overwhelming experience. And I've luckily, and I think that's what kind of pushes me to keep working as a musician and working as an artist and trying to build a career and keep trying to get out there and share my music with people. It's because of even just these little moments, sometimes live in front of an audience, but more so when I'm by myself, where I feel that connection with whatever it is, that higher power, the universe, the force, God, whatever people want to call it, because to me, the name, the title is not really that important, but I feel that connection, and there's just that amazing warmth and emotional feelings that come. And like I said, there's been moments where I've written a song, or I'll work on a new song, and I finally get to the point where it's not gibberish. I'm actually saying lyrics that make sense. And then I'm like, where did this come from? And again, like I'm working on it, and I'm even then brought to tears. Like I literally almost start crying because I'm like, what? This sounds so good. It feels so good. Like what is going on, you know? It's, again, it's, I just said a whole lot of things there to try to explain something that, like you said, it's almost kind of unexplainable, like why or where this kind of energy and force and almost magic kind of comes from. And I've spoken to many artists that kind of feel that they have this very similar kind of, you know, I feel when the music's not contrived, or when the art is not contrived and very, you know, rigid and strict, and it has to be this type of thing, when you just open yourself up and just let it come, and then you use your body, voice, or instrument or whatever to express that energy, there is this really amazing thing that you feel as an artist.
No, it's beautiful because I relate with it so much in my own way. I think I was 17 when I felt it for the first time, when I was a science student. I was studying physics in school. And I remember I was somewhere between kinetic energy and potential energy. And this 5-minute visual came to my mind, which I wrote down, scribbled across the physics book. And it was titled Vacant Canvas. And I realized later that I had written about either it was lives, journey of lives, like current life and past life, and I'm getting dreams and visuals of my past life. Or it could mean how the world has changed from rural to urban, or it could mean me as an individual changing places. But I was amazed at how did I write it, or how did I even reach a point where I was ready to receive something like this. So I think what you're saying completely makes sense, and it is so relatable as a fellow artist, where the artists themselves are amazed by what they have created, because it's not they who are creating it, but they are channelizing the energy. Having said that, I think you're also being very humble. Your music, your songs, your lyrics are brilliant, and they touch lives across boundaries, which also means that you have put so much of effort and hard work and groundwork to be able to receive that energy. So it's that juxtaposition of doing doing the technical things that you need to do as as a musician, as an artist, and balancing that with being to receiving it. So this doing and being part, you just explained the being part very beautifully, where things come to you and the gibberish becomes words eventually. But this doing part, tell us, how much of work do you put in, or what has your been journey to really develop those skills and techniques and technicalities of a musician to be able to deliver and express the way you are doing right now?
Right, yeah. So the doing part, that aspect of, you know, basically fine tuning or crafting really your art form or your form of expression. It really depends on the artist, really. But my own personal journey again was this having one of my first experiences with the guitar here in Portugal, and just being amazed by the instrument, getting that initial curiosity, intrigue, basically kind of falling in love with that power of the sound and the frequencies and that energy. And then just that passion and almost obsession with the instrument. Plus, I'm the kind of person, I also enjoy a bit of a challenge, so the fact that it was difficult, it becomes that type of almost addictive, I wouldn't say game, because that's almost a bit disrespectful to the art form, but it becomes this challenge of wanting to play the melody just right. When you're learning, for example, and you try to learn a new song of another artist you like, and so you just, no, I'm going to play the solo over and over and over until it's exactly the way it is. But it is, as many people say, those 10,000 hours. And I don't know where I am. And obviously this general 10,000 hours is general. For some people to reach that level of mastery, and I'm not sure I'm even there yet, but some people may reach it way before 10,000. Some, it takes even longer. It just depends on each person and their own life and their own journey and their own conditions and everything else. But it was, for me, it was not even really that hard, because there was just this passion and obsession for the guitar, for the songwriting process, having that feeling that, okay, I can put something together and create something that's never existed before, by using my voice and the guitar and these instruments. And then really it's like with anything really, it's if you're motivated, you're inspired, you're passionate, and then you mix that with discipline, because that's, I think, probably the issue for a lot of people that maybe never reach that point of being able to play their instrument or being able to kind of master their art form or their craft within art to really express it, is the fact that you need to sacrifice. You need to say, well, I am going to spend all my money on buying the equipment I need to properly play my instrument. I am going to invest my money, or not only just money, time. I'm going to practice and practice and practice and practice. And I've had many years of practice. And I'm a self-taught musician. I never went to a music school. I've learned a lot from playing with other formally educated musicians and just other really, really good self-taught musicians. And then now, in the day and age that we live in, I try to take as much time as I can to, with the access of the internet, learn as much and continue to keep learning. But yeah, so then it's this whole process of just, and in my case, the instrumentation, the instruments, the guitar, my voice, piano, those types of things. And then just sacrificing the time that is needed to learn properly the instrument, and then also improvise with it and experiment. And if people are willing to take that time, then they can get through the do process and finally reach the be process, where there's not so much of, there isn't this fight anymore to use the instrument. It really becomes a tool to express what you want to come out, or what you're actually channeling. Yeah.
Do you think there is a general fear, especially among artists, of going into the unknown, and especially as a musician, because you are creating something which did not exist? Most art forms are that, if you think about it. But is there a fear of going into unknown? And how do you balance that with the discipline that you just talked about, the passion that you just talked about?
For a lot of people, there can be a lot of fear, just in general around the world, not even artistically or musically or when you're trying to work on a piece of art, unfortunately, there tends to be a lot of fear within our society, which translates into, oh, should I make this decision? Should I not make this decision? Should I do this? Should I do that? So I would say kind of agree, or I would definitely say that there is this fear factor, which I kind of feel is always a bit there for a lot of people. And it may be one of the things that kind of hinders individuals from moving forward, from sacrificing the time, or from really diving in to their art, or learning an instrument, or discovering more about themselves. Personally, I'm the kind of person with this explorer kind of mentality, wanting to discover and explore and see more, where I actually kind of like that experience of trying to do something I've never done before, play something I've never played before, write a song, or incorporate styles that I might never have used before. I want to try to be someone who is just open, and I don't want to set personal boundaries or put myself kind of in a box, so to speak, where, no, I'm only going to do this kind of thing. This is what I know. This is what I'm safe. This is where I'm safe, or this is what I'm good at. I'm not going to try to do something else that is going to maybe show my weaknesses or show weak points. So personally, I kind of like that unknown. Again, the fact that we open ourselves up and kind of just let that energy come in and we become the vessel. You have to sort of be willing to let the unknown be a thing, and almost face the unknown. But yeah, I would say that unfortunately for many people that is a factor that kind of holds them back. And even maybe there have been moments in my life where I was manipulated by the fear, or I was held back a bit by, well, I don't know what's there, so I don't think I'm going to go there. And today, at least, I try to be conscious of these things and aware, am I making the decision because of fear, or am I making the decision because I feel that it's really what's right for me? And most of the times, if it's something where I feel that it is me breaching the unknown, there's a part of me that, let's go. I want to see what this is possibly going to bring me. It's a risk, but that's, I think in art, you have to take those risks, and in life also.
Yeah. So according to you, would you say an artist is actually always challenging himself or herself, or it's actually a competition with self and not with the others, unlike how it is usually seen?
Yeah, well, that's right. You're saying kind of, I guess, two factors of the challenging or competition is that within the industry of art, there is this sense of competition. But on a personal level, I would say, yeah, that there is a certain kind of challenge factor. I think most artists, even successful ones, they challenge themselves to, well, the next album I want it to be better, or I want it to reach more people, or I want to, I want even the sound to be even better, and I want my fans to say, well, this album is even better than the last album, for example. So yeah, I would say that challenge or challenging factor is something that artists use, which is also, that whole competition challenge factor is kind of embedded into our society today as well, where, try to be the best, try to win, try to, be the best you, or outdo the next person, which I'm not so much into that, but I definitely want to always improve, and I want to be a better singer. I want to be an even better guitar player. I want to be an even better producer, like every time I work on something new, So I would say it's an important part, actually, of evolving and creating better art every time you work on it or release it.
It's interesting because what you just said makes me think if you actually compete with yourself, you will not need to compete with anybody outside and you will automatically, naturally reach the top or top the charts.
Right. Yeah, because I, at least again, and I can speak mainly about music as it being the art form that I've kind of studied and worked within for a long period of time. If you stop focusing on what everyone else is doing and stop trying to compete with whatever is on social media or whatever's on the top of the charts, and you really just try to focus on being the best at what you can do and finding what are your strong points, what are your weak points, and focusing on your strong points especially, I think, yeah, one way or another, that energy that is feeding artists, that the universe will reward you because you are pushing your limits and you're growing as an artist. And I think that there are many artists where it was just that. They became the best versions of themselves. And then the light that shines from them is so strong that it's kind of the rest of everyone else is just like, wait, what is this? You know, what is this person doing? Because this is, where did this come from? That's why I think some artists, some people, they almost just come out of nowhere. It's like they were never really trying to compete with everybody else that's just doing the same thing or that's trying to fit into the same mode, whatever sells. They're just focusing on their pure form of art. And I think that's probably the most important thing to do is to just focus on the best version of yourself and the best art you can put out. And I think one way or another it will reach people.
Best version of yourself. Focus on the best version of yourself, because even if you look at it from a psychology perspective or social human interaction perspective, who are you as a person anyway? Everybody has a version of you in their minds. So if you start getting bogged down by, who Megha is or who Moses is for somebody, that version might be very different from how any, someone else looks at me or looks at you for that matter. So I think that's so important what you just said, focusing on the best version of yourself. And
Right.
this example that you gave of, just doing the best you can, and you said there are a lot of artists like that. Who stands out to you? Who do you look up to? Who has this journey?
Oh, wow. There's so many. I mean, specifically, a lot of these artists that I feel kind of reached this point where they had kind of become the master of themselves. I mean, some of my biggest influences are, Bob Marley or Jimi Hendrix, which are two masters within their own. They created so many, Bob Marley, which kind of putting reggae on the map and was just this light in the world. And Jimi Hendrix in a very similar way with the guitar. He was innovative. He was doing things no one had ever done before, ever. Like so many people play today and they mimic or imitate what he did, but he created these voicings, these sounds. There's people that can do technically what he created better than when he was playing it, but he was that vessel that kind of introduced to people the certain things like effects and sounds and certain voicings on the guitar that no one had ever done before. So for sure, Jimi Hendrix was like a very huge influence. Bob Marley, I was always, on a songwriter perspective and also as a guitarist, Eric Clapton was always someone that I listened to a lot because my dad had these CDs and records. And there was also a guitarist, which I feel is like probably one of the best examples also of this best version, like your best version of yourself, is this guitarist called Stevie Ray Vaughan. He was a blues guitarist and he was just incredibly good at playing what he played. But if you really look at what he was playing, he found his own kind of specific voice in blues, and he mastered what he was doing and mastered it to the point where he was the best at what he did and nobody could be him. So there was no competition. No matter how many people tried to play like him or sound like him, And that's the thing about it. If you master you, nobody can be you. So there's
Find
no
your
other
voice.
master out there. And your voice, exactly. So once you've reached that point, and if that's what you focus on, opposed to what's the competition doing, or what's on the charts here, or what's the art form that's selling the most. No, if you just focus on yourself and kind of, not in an egotistical way, but if you focus on trying to better yourself and be the best artist or whatever you're trying to do in this life, and you then reach that level of mastery of yourself, it's that there's that special factor of how we're all special because we're unique. Again, there's no one that's going to master you better than you. So once you reach that level, it will reach other people if you want it to, you know. So, but yeah, Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix, Eric Clapton, those are three names that I spent, three artists and singers that I spent a really, really long time listening to their music. I wouldn't say necessarily trying to imitate it, but just being a huge fan and also finding a lot of inspiration in them as artists specifically, you know. I mean, and then there's tons of others, you know, from classical music to rock. You know, I listen to a lot of Chopin or Bach, which is like a huge, for everyone, it's a very big influence. Yeah, I've had the privilege and I've been lucky enough to really be exposed to a lot of really, really good music. But those are some of the names that I would say really have made a kind of, you know, an imprint or left a mark on my artistic journey and all my, you know, my inspirations as well.
I think you're being humble about it. I know for a fact that you have won international awards in Portugal and many accolades. So I want to ask you, what, according to you, is your biggest achievement?
For me, well, the fact that I would say today, even though it's always a bit of a struggle, is survive as an artist, and kind of be able to make a living to a degree as an artist is already an achievement. Because for me, when I was working part-time jobs and working various jobs that I didn't enjoy, that many people do or have to do because they don't really have a choice, there was always this desire to want to be able to make music or be involved in music and somehow make some kind of a living. That was always, I would say, almost a dream, and then at some point a goal. So the fact that today, thankfully, I am able to continue riding that wave, and I'm working as a musician, and I have the privilege, and really, I'm blessed to kind of have that opportunity to wake up every day and just focus on the art that I'm creating, or the music I'm putting out, or the videos I need to work on, or for my project or others that I'm working on within music. So the fact that I'm kind of just always around music, that for me has been in itself an achievement. And we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but I also feel that I've achieved, or I'm really happy with, a certain level of achievement, which is being able to connect to that energy. That, to me, where I got little bursts of it throughout the beginning of my career as a musician or as an artist, as a songwriter, and it would come and go here and there. And now my goal, in a way, is to try to almost tap into that as much as possible. And I feel like I'm getting better at it. So that, for me, in itself is an achievement. The fact that I can have that kind of enriching, rather spiritual experience, tapping into the universe or the energy that we receive, is, for me, in itself an achievement as well. So there's those two factors. Of course, yeah, I've won some international awards, like Portuguese, within the Portuguese community, the music community, and those are always amazing. I'm so grateful for them. Some of them have been the reason why I'm able to continue growing as an artist and building my career. But again, I try to keep a certain pure factor with the music, where it can't be because of the awards or the charts for me. It has to be because of the creation, because of the energy that I'm channeling in, you know. Again, it's like trying to be used as a vessel in a way. And for me, those are even just the fact that I've worked so hard to reach a level as an instrumentalist or as a guitarist where then I can express myself. That's an achievement where years ago I was like, oh, I want to be able to do that. Now I'm realizing that I can. And on a more simple level, I would say, the fact that I reached the point where I could survive just off of music, when many of us have the fear that, oh, I won't make enough money, or I won't. But it's when you kind of let go of that fear and you just open yourself up again, and you just go with the flow, that sometimes you realize that there's a lot more in the universe that's kind of rooting for you or pushing for you to achieve these things if you kind of go with some faith. So yeah, I don't know if that answers really the question, but as far as achievements, I would say those two things.
The fact that you have built your skills and your ability to receive the artistic energy over a period of time, and the fact that you have challenged yourself throughout to create a new record for yourself. Tell us an experience with any song that you worked on, any EP that you worked on, two EPs where you saw a big delta happening, and how you were earlier as a musician and how you are in that new project.
My first and even second EP, Perception was the first one, and Reflection, the second one. That really, just even listening to those two EPs, even though they're somewhat similar, there was already a pretty big, I don't want to use the word improvement, but there was already a big kind of, I would say, change, as far as the fact that even Imagination has this rather Indian kind of influence. And even sonically as well, like the sound, I pushed myself further as a producer, as an engineer. I also worked with another friend, so bringing other people into the projects that we're working on is really, really good. I worked with another producer here from Portugal. Well, he's more of a sound engineer who helped me then with kind of like mixing and mastering that work, and we did it together. So not only did I learn a lot, but he also helped me kind of elevate what I was doing, which is good because, you know, artists, again, the fact that we can channel into this energy is great, but it's even better when we can incorporate others in our community. It's even stronger when that actually happens. So my first EP, I also worked with a really good kind of producer to help me mix and primarily master the songs, but we were at distance. So it was different because with my second EP, me and this other sound engineer, Pedro Valente, the fact that we were together, that we could kind of channel our ideas off one another, I feel like you notice quite a bit of a difference from the first one to the second one. And it's not a question of really that one's better than the other, but there kind of is this factor, I feel, just even sonically, where there's a step up as far as the evolution, which kind of leads me into my next EP, which I'm working on now, which is actually called Evolution. And yeah, it is this process from perception to reflection to then the evolution. So I'm hoping with this next one that it's going to be an even better production, even better. Again, we talked about challenging ourselves, that it'll be even better. But I would say with those first EPs, they were my, from even those first EPs and the first few songs that I released, because I won a few awards, 3 awards, with songs that were just singles. And I kind of did that for a while. I would just release a song every once in a while. I wasn't focusing on the collective, EP or album. I knew one day I wanted to do that, but I really wanted to take time to also explore, learn more about myself as a person, before I started really diving into more of collective, larger pieces of work. So I also saw a growth just from all of the singles and songs I started working on. So yeah, just overall seeing this process of growth is pretty interesting as an artist to look back and really see what you've worked on, and also it's also gratifying to see that growth process as well, though.
The first song that I ever heard of you was Try. And this is a fangirl moment for me. And I have to ask you the process of how did Try happen, because that's the song that made me realize that music does transcend boundaries. Words do transcend cultures and languages, because it's the emotion that felt very universal to me. So tell me about Try.
Yeah, so Try is one of these singles that I worked on, and it was one of these kinds of songs where I was listening to a lot of classical music and even kind of cinematographic type of music as well, because I'm a big fan of all that kind of stuff. And there was this side of wanting to try to like mix something that was almost, the recording of Try doesn't really have all this like classical elements like orchestra, but just trying to think of it a bit kind of like it was an orchestration, with the instruments, the layers, some of the layers of the vocals. It was one of the songs I actually started to try to do different things with the voice, having a voice that was doing a certain kind of thing and then another vocal part. And towards the end of that song, for example, I have a lot of layers as far as harmonies and other types of vocal things. So there was that influence, like almost the classical or cinematographic kind of influence from artists that I was listening to at the period, that I kind of worked on the song. And there was also that similar influence that I was talking about before, or process of playing the chords and then finding a bass that I felt sounded cool, a vibe that I had, and then just singing over it and playing the same thing for a very, very long period of time, and just kind of having the melodies come, again, this very similar thing, just having the melodies come and not forcing them, Again, when it's forced or it's contrived, I think it's a lot harder for us to connect with other people, because if we're all connected to that energy, it's easier if you let that energy come into you and then you share it out to people, then the other people will be like, oh, cool, I get this, because it's part of the energy that I also am connected to. But when you really try to force it, and it's not really coming from that energy exactly, others don't really get it. So maybe that's why there was that kind of connection also, that musical connection even with you, where you're on a whole nother country on the other side of the world and you hear one of my songs and you say, wow, this connects with me. So yeah, there was that personal and kind of artistic aspect of letting it come, just exploring. And then I kind of just started thinking, because it was a period of time as well where I was thinking a lot about, I was living in Paris, in France at the time, when I wrote that song. And in Paris, I was a musicien de métro, which is the musician of the metro. So I would play in the metros. And I actually started experimenting that song like in the subways, like the first versions of the loop of that song. And I had the melody idea, I had all the ideas, and then I started thinking about the idea Try, which, like I'm saying in the song, maybe you could understand me, maybe you could comprehend me if you just try. Because you see all these people just walking around, they're going about their daily lives, and this started making me think about how sometimes we don't make the effort to understand others. We don't really make the effort to really comprehend. We're not compassionate enough sometimes to really understand what other people are going through or what someone else is going through. Sometimes we judge them too quickly, or we jump the gun and we're just going to say, oh, I know this person because they come from this country, or they work this job, or they do this thing. So that song and the whole message behind Try was kind of and is influenced by the idea that, if we try to understand each other, we actually can. It's not that hard, It's actually rather simple. And there's a part in the song where I'm actually repeating zeros and ones, and that's kind of like, it's sort of a metaphor for us, like that what I would see when I was in Paris and everybody on the trains, just kind of going this rather robotic kind of thing. And also the fact that also then in a way we're kind of all the same. So yeah, there's a lot of different influences with that song. And it is actually a song that I really, really like as well, out of one of the songs that I've worked on, that I've thought about even doing like other versions of, maybe like a different, more electronic version, or even an acoustic version, for example, which is something I might work on in the future. But yeah, I hope that kind of helps explain a little bit more about the process. But yeah, that's kind of the message. Is rather simple, but if you just try, you can understand other people. If you make an effort, a lot of times you can, you can pretty much do whatever you want. Really, you can achieve whatever you want. But with this song, it was more about feeling that others, sometimes they don't get you, or they judge you too quickly, and it doesn't have to be that way,
Beautiful. I also noticed that over a period of years, maybe it's a very natural progression for you as a musician, but from your singles to EP, and then only the audio or soundtracks, to actually creating an entire production of your videos also. The way you work on creating the story behind the song, presenting it in a visual format. So it's actually an entire audio visual output that you are bringing out. What is it that motivated you to give visuals to your sound, and how has it changed over a period of years? Or in fact, why is it important for you as a musician to give visuals to your songs?
Well, it's important to me to also provide the visual for two reasons. One being that we live in a very visual, I would say, era, where it's for people to kind of consume the art that you're putting out, especially music. It helps a lot to have a music video or some kind of visual content that the person can not only just listen, but also watch. So there's that factor, which always kind of makes me think, okay, well, I like this song, I'm going to put this out, I need to do a video for it. What's rather interesting is how a lot of the videos, I even kind of start thinking about them before the song's even done. Like, I'll start to get some ideas for some of the song, some of the ideas for the song and the music video, like while I'm working on the actual song. I'll start to imagine a little bit how I think for this video, once the song is finished, I'll probably do something like this. This would be really cool, And sometimes we have the means and the budget to actually bring it to life. Sometimes we don't. There's a lot of songs I've never even put out a video for, because at the time I was kind of unable to make it happen. But I feel that it's really important. I feel that it helps. However, I do believe that music is much stronger than just visuals. I mean, we can listen with our eyes closed, and that's another power of music, is that you don't need to watch anything to feel it. But I do feel that it helps. So that's why it's important for me, and that's why I try to I try to, and even in some ways it just kind of happens naturally, where I envision already the music video for the song, for example, before even the song is done. So it's kind of just goes hand in hand nowadays.
And it's also important because it does help broadening the reach of the music, because a lot of people may prefer visual medium first primarily and then go to an audio medium. So for people to connect with the visuals first and then go to the song, for those who, for me it's very difficult to imagine, but there might be some people who don't relate to music first and do with visuals first. So you're broadening the reach, I guess, with
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. You can reach more people, and in today's day and age, that's what we want to do, and that's, I wouldn't say need to do, but it's important. Yeah.
I want to go back to what you mentioned about when you were in Paris, France, and you used to play in metros or in subways. And I know that you do a lot of busking also, where you play on the streets, and you've done that across cities, across countries. I want to ask you about the balance of finding yourself at a level where you have enough and more fans who appreciate you, but how does that not stop you from making your music and yourself available to the public and masses? I hope my question makes sense.
You know, when I'm working on the music in general that I'm putting out, the goal is to reach as many people as possible, which is why performing on the street, busking, playing in the metros of Paris, and playing all around Europe, all over the streets, it's really fueled by the desire to want to share my music and to kind of be a bit of, I wouldn't say a renegade, but someone who's not going to just wait that for the right opportunity or for the best concert gig or the biggest festival to just knock on my door. I've kind of just had this mentality of, if I want to get out there, if I want to be heard, I need to do it. And I've always tried to use the street as a way to do it, because there is this very special aspect of performing on the street where nobody really cares that you're there, because you're playing on the street, right? So you're not this super known musician. And at least when you're starting off. And it's rather interesting. Again, it's another way that I've learned the power of music and how powerful it can be. Is how you get to a location, you're going to play, you start to perform, and in a short period of time, if it goes well, people start to stop. And I've had very powerful and magical experiences where there are lots of people stopped. At times, even depending on where I was and the moment and the conditions of the day and all that stuff, there were hundreds of people. And at moments where I'd be playing, my eyes closed, and I'm just into the music, and I open my eyes, and it's just like, whoa, wait a second. There was a couple people here, but now this is like a huge amount of people. And that is a very powerful thing, when you can see that you have the ability to stop someone in their day who's running to work or running to meet someone or has to do grocery shopping or whatever. It's a very special feeling to feel that you were able to captivate someone in real time, you know, just right in the middle of the street, a spontaneous concert. And it's not always these huge hundreds of people. Sometimes it's also a very humbling experience, like going to the streets and perform. But I feel like they're both very enriching. They both teach you a lot. And to kind of answer a little bit more of your question, yeah, for me, even if I was a really, really successful musician, I think it's something that I would always do every once in a while, because it's wanting to reach the people and make it accessible to people. Not everybody can pay to your concerts, not everybody can pay to go see gigs, not every city has live music all the time. So there was always this side of street performing, which that I loved because I felt like I could really connect in a real way with people on an everyday level. So that's why, you know, it's very important, and that's why I feel that even sometimes a lot of artists should experience, you know, especially musicians should have that experience, because it is really enriching, and that's kind of why I really always have done it, for the base of you know, the learning experience, and also just to try to reach as many people as I possibly can, not limiting myself by, you know, these rules that say, oh, you have to play in a concert hall, or you can only go to this festival when you have thousands of tickets sold or something. I've always thought, I love music, I want to make a living off of it, I want people to hear what I have to offer. I'm just going to go out and share it with them.
I respect that so much, because more often than not, especially today, you see a lot of artists who have found their voice, who have seen some charts, want to make themselves exclusive, or a sense of exclusivity brings them a sense of success. So I really respect what you do and what your perspective on about sharing your music and art. And I mean, you must have seen that video which had gone viral a couple of years ago, where Hosier was performing in New York subway station, one of his most famous songs. And if an artist like Hosier can do, then anybody and everybody should
Right.
be open to sharing their art.
All right, for sure. And these are artists, some of these artists, like you mentioned, like Hosier, some of them even kind of started off as well, in a ways like I have, by getting out into the street and performing. And they reach some of them, like Hosier or even Ed Sheeran, for example, like they started off playing in the streets, some of them, and they still go and do it. And I probably can relate to them to a degree, is because there is this gratifying experience when you can give back to the community, you know. And I think as artists, and even just as people in general, but like specifically as artists, our objective is to also serve and offer, you know. So it shouldn't only, in my opinion, be like in this exclusive thing. I understand why some artists might want to create this illusion that they live on a cloud somewhere up in the sky, but they're just real people, and we're all just real people. And I think the more today, at least I hope, that we're moving in a direction where even the fans, they like it when you're real, when you're humble enough to just give back, you know. So this idea of the artist that lives hidden away in a magical world somewhere is like, you know, I think that illusion is beginning to dissolve a bit, and more, which is why you have guys like Hosier or Ed Sheeran and even other bigger artists that pop up in the street and perform and people go crazy. I think that's an amazing thing, and I think that most artists, and if not all of them, should do it, you know, specifically singers and musicians.
What has been your you know, the most interesting street performing experiences across Europe or any other place that comes to your mind?
Well, yeah, I've played almost all around Europe, and they have, for the most part, all been exceptional experiences. But I would say that there are two locations two cities where I lived for a bit of time. I lived in Porto, which is in the north of Portugal. And that's when I really started to work a lot as a performing musician, where I played quite a bit on the streets and events and live performances. And in Porto, where they make the port wine, or Porto wine, which is pretty well known in Europe at least, it's they have this river, the Golden River is technically what it's translated to, o Rio Douro. And this river is just breathtaking place to be, first of all, and has nice views. It's just really nice. And now it's become a very popular thing, but there's locations on this river where lots of musicians and street artists perform. And I spent a few years where I would go there pretty frequently, I wouldn't, almost constantly, to perform, because you could have these experiences like I spoke about where, and I had it mainly in the summertime, but various experiences where I'm performing, people start to stop on the benches, kind of moving around, okay, whatever, people are stopping by. But I had a few experiences there where I'm playing, and after 15, 20 minutes or half an hour of performing, it is just full and full and full of people. And even the traffic of people moving around on the, you know, the riverside where there's restaurants and cafes and everything, like it's almost all of it stopped. And then after the song, people are clapping and, you know, almost like cheering you on. It's like, wow, this is, you know, I almost get like chills thinking about it. It's a very overwhelming experience, and it really shows the power of music and the power that each individual has if they put themselves out there. And very similar experiences that I had also in Paris, where every once in a while I would go to a park right near the Eiffel Tower, which is called Trocadero, which is like a really famous park with nice museums everywhere, and you get a really nice view of the Eiffel Tower. There's a lot of artists that go there, dancers, all different types of artists, and I would go there to perform. And again, I would play at the bottom of these stairs where you had the Eiffel Tower behind me. And yeah, people are there to take their picture and just leave. Sometimes they hang out, you know, but most of the time the staircase is just empty, or a couple people, you know, maybe taking a break for a second or whatever. And I would get up, I would get there, I would just set up in the middle, at the bottom of the stairs, you know, get everything going and just start playing. And again, these similar experiences where then the whole staircase is full of like maybe 100 something people, and just being floored by how much it can have an impact on others, and also just how the people afterwards send you messages or say, wow, it was such an awesome experience because we got to see you perform, or this like spontaneous concert, you know, it was so awesome. And so it's those kind of experiences that keep pushing me once again to get out to the streets, to make it accessible for people, and which motivate me to keep doing what I'm doing, because the awards that I've won are great. They're like these little accolades that say, yeah, you've achieved these levels of success as a songwriter or a producer. But it's the connection with the people which you can't control, you know, exactly how they're going to react. It's that connection that is, I would say, even more valuable, and what motivates me, and I know a lot of other artists as well, which that motivates us to keep going.
Moses, I want to now ask you something which I'm not sure if you have heard, but at least in India, a lot of people, you know, debate about whether somebody is a born singer or they can be trained to be a singer. What is your perspective on that?
I do feel that there are some people that might have from birth a certain ability to possibly learn or manipulate their voice faster than other people. Just like there is with anything, with sports, or really with anything we try to learn. There's some people, they just have a natural inclination, they just have a natural intuition, they just are able to achieve it a little bit faster, or where it even appears to be like they were just born with the gift, so to speak. However, I do believe that the ability to sing specifically, I think we could all sing if we kind of do two things. If we learn a bit how the voice works, just like any other instrument, you have to kind of learn how it works, how to use it. And one thing that's very important, which is getting past which some of us have this, it's not necessarily a fear, but maybe it could be a fear of thinking about what other people are going to think about your voice, or getting past the phase of being comfortable with, this is what my voice sounds like, and I'm okay with it, you know? Because in the beginning, a lot of times people may feel, oh no, I can't sing, my voice sounds horrible, because we almost have this subconscious or conscious type of reaction where we're like, oh no, it's not cool, I don't want to listen to my voice, it sounds weird. And in the beginning, when you start recording and you listen back to what you've done, it is a bit strange because you don't normally listen to your voice recorded. So when you first start to hear it, you say, wait, that's what my voice sounds like? But once you get past that phase, I really do feel that it's an ability that most people can do. And obviously someone might have some kind of physical disability where they can't talk properly or sing properly or use their vocal cords, which unfortunately it's just like with any other disability. But I really do feel that if you want to, you can achieve it if you set your mind to it with whatever it is, really. So with singing, I think anybody really could be a singer. Of course, there's going to be certain people that just have that natural gift, that achieve it quicker. And just like with anything, there's going to be certain qualities of certain voices that are going to sound maybe more pleasing to more people or not. But, you know, it really, it just comes down to taste and personal preference, because there's a lot of singers out there where, technically speaking, they're not good singers, but they know how to use their voice. They're not afraid or thinking about or caring about what anyone else is going to say about it. They use their voice, they use it in their own way, and some of them are even very successful, you know, as artists. So again, I would go to say that yes, you have the Celine Dion's and Whitney Houston's of the voice where, wow, their voice sounds amazing, and they were able to cultivate very easily that ability. But then you have other people that have the passion and the desire and push themselves to cultivate that ability over years and years of practice. And again, it's that concept of the best version of yourself. It's finding your way of using your voice and making it work for you. So to answer your question, I think that everybody could be a singer if they have the desire and the discipline to push themselves.
That's such a motivating and encouraging answer coming from such an established musician. I think I have to thank you for that. So many people, at least I personally know, who have said this at some point of time in their lives, that I don't think I can ever be a singer, or, you know, how it usually goes, where people say, I'm just a bathroom singer and I can't sing in front of people. But I think this, what you just said, will be so motivating to so many people. And that makes me actually think, and I want to ask you, the technicality of being a singer versus what you said, you know, the personal choices and the tastes and preferences. You mentioned Celine Dion, and then you have voices like Adele or Amy Winehouse. Two very different textures and types of voices. I want to take your global perspective on this, because at least what happened in India, as we were growing up, there were these famous singers who were brilliant female voices, who had a very high pitch or a specific type of voice. What that did is, and I can't generalize it for the entire country, but you know, I've seen a pattern at least across cities in India. The people who had a heavier voice, which was the opposite of the famous voices, they would feel they can never be a singer, or they will never be liked by other people. So have you seen this preference changing based on, you know, the famous artists or famous singers? And is there a good voice technically?
I think this happens not only just with singing, I think this is the type of trend mentality that exists within our society as human beings, and for a very long time now, that when something reaches a certain level of success, global success, well, that's what we should aim for. But it kind of goes back to what we spoke about earlier as far as competing with these people or thinking that you should or you need to compete with them. Today, because of social media and the fact that a lot of people can share their art easier than ever before, I think you have a lot of artists that might have, as you said, a heavy or like a low tone voice. They don't have these high pitched, Whitney Houston kind of voices. However, thousands upon millions of people love what they're doing because they found their way. They found their voice. They found their artistic vision. They cultivated it. So I think today there really isn't a good voice. I think they're all good. It's just a question of personal taste, really, at that point. Whether you like it or you don't like it. Some people, they want to hear music that has no singer. I personally, as a singer, have gone through a phase for two reasons. Where one being, I don't want to be influenced by what other singers are doing, so I just don't listen to other singers, and I also want to just kind of cultivate what I'm working on. So I'll listen to a lot of instrumental music and classical music where there is no voice, to kind of cut that factor out, because it's very easy to listen to a popular singer on the radio and without even knowing it, get influenced by what you're hearing. So, and this is a good and sometimes bad thing. But to answer your question, I don't think today especially there's a good voice, and I think that those kind of trends that people follow when they hear a certain type of voice that's popular and they say, okay, let's get every singer needs to be like this singer. I think that is slowly kind of changing, because you see a lot of artists and a lot of different people hitting the mainstream and reaching millions of people that maybe years ago would have never even been considered. And I kind of feel like this is happening in a lot of different fields, not just music. I think it's happening in even like fashion or art or other parts of art, I should say, where years ago a model for fashion had to be a certain kind of person, had to be a certain height and look and weight. And now, because of the way things are changing in society, which is a very positive thing, someone can be of all shapes and sizes, it almost doesn't really matter. So I would say, yeah, today that the idea of a good voice is all your own opinion, really.
Diversity and inclusion is what you touched upon just now by just saying that accept who you are and find the courage to be who you are.
Yeah, which is hard. It's hard to do. We say it like it sounds so easy, but it's a life journey. I think we spend our whole lives trying to figure out who we are, and we learn a little bit each day. But yeah, accepting is definitely the fundamental part.
Who is Moses?
Who is Moses? Well, Moses is a person who is trying to learn and explore on a very simple level. Is a person who is searching, who's still searching for exactly that, trying to figure out who I am, who are we. I actually have a song that kind of talks a bit about this topic, and yeah, it's a very, very difficult question to answer, because nobody really knows, because we're always evolving. Who we were yesterday no longer exists, really. Who we're going to be, we can try to prepare and mold it, but life in itself is going to do this for us. But I know, as far as my ideals and my vision of the world, and how I like to see myself, is someone who who first of all kind of wants to be a good person and wants to be good to other people, and at the same time who wants to grow and learn and explore. You know, that if I could try to, you know, summarize myself, what I think I am at least, as a person, that's probably what it would be. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And the next part of this question would be, what is your voice of artist?
That's also another hard one. My voice of artist at this point, because it is kind of always evolving and changing. But one thing that I realized as an artist, and when I realized that I had this voice, and not just specifically like as a singer, because this can go for any artist that doesn't, you know, or any artist can find their own vision, whether they're painting or dancing or whatever. But for me as an artist, I realized years ago that I wanted to create my own light. I wanted to cultivate my own light, my own kind of energy, you know, a fire, so to speak. And that I wanted, with my artistic vision and with my voice, I want to leave something behind that is timeless. I don't know if I've already achieved it. I'm working towards it. But that is my intention, is to create art, to put things out there, to connect with people, to create some kind of energy or transmit this energy within myself and create some kind of a light, some kind of a fire that will hopefully still shine or burn even after the body that I call Moses is no longer here.
This clarity that you have, or at least, again, I would say you are being modest about being on the journey. Yes, everybody is. We are on the journey, and figuring out who you are and it's self-exploration is going to be a lifelong journey. But the fact that you had questions that you wanted to answer, that counts. A lot of people may not even have reached that stage where you realize that you have to ask some questions or you have to find answers to some basic questions of existence. So I appreciate and respect that you're already on that journey. What would you say to others who are maybe at different stages in the journey? How can they find their voice of artist, or how can they unlock that artistic energy within themselves?
I would say that they definitely need to take time to explore and to experiment. It's probably the better word. Experiment with different forms of art. Like I used to do a lot of drawing and painting, and I've experimented with other aspects of art as well. So I feel like that really helps lock or unlock, I should say, the inspiration to write and kind of create and feel inspired. Trying to consume a lot of different art in general and just dive into the artists that you really like as well, because it's a really good thing. You know, again, I was, you know, really and heavily influenced by Bob Marley or Jimi Hendrix or various other artists, and just diving into their work, and you feel their inspiration, and that also, you know, really helps any artist who is trying to really cultivate what they want and what they're trying to do. And then their vision as an artist really depends on what that person, what the objective is for that person. If for many, and unfortunately for many, it's fame or success, you know, and by success I mean like maybe having lots of money or a bunch of awards, you're probably not on the right path, in my opinion. I would say that music or art should definitely come from a pure kind of state where you do it because there is a love and a passion for what you're doing. And honestly, that is what is going to fuel and motivate you to keep doing it, because it's not easy, it's tiring, sometimes expensive, things usually don't work out, you get tons of no's, you are kind of always fighting against the current to get your stuff out there, especially today, because it's really hard to get to really share your art. There's so many people trying to do it. So it's great that everybody can share their art easily, but it also has become a bit flooded. The market and the industry has become a bit flooded where everybody is putting stuff out. So I think the stuff that's going to shine through is going to be the stuff that's created with a certain kind of intention and a certain and created with a pure form of love for what they were doing, and not the intention of, oh, I'm going to make money, or I want to be famous, or because those are kind of, you know, superficial, almost like illusions that, yes, artists can make money, yes, they can have success, but the real ones that are doing it because they love it, they don't really care about those things. You know, those things just come and go, but they keep just working on their art, and because they never really did it for those reasons. And I would say the other thing, which could be a bit, I wouldn't say controversial for some people, or taboo, but one thing that was very important for me was meeting some mentors in my life who made me realize how important some kind of a spiritual practice was, aside from the work and the art that you're doing, how important it was to also kind of discover yourself as a spiritual person. And when I say that, it's not really religious. It's almost even in ways that we can use the word spirit to say, well, I'm of good spirit today. I'm positive. I'm happy. So it's just trying to find that spirit in you, and then obviously even deeper into certain spirituality, where you learn more and more about yourself through that, and you learn more and more about how to serve other people and how to really be grateful for all of the little things that you're doing. So I feel like if someone is really focusing on trying to find their voice and be an artist, I think that those are factors that they should take into consideration. I know for sure I have, and I continue to, like, all the time.
That is going to help so many people, we hope. And with that, why do you think a platform like Voice of Artist is needed today, or is it needed today? Let me ask that first.
Oh, for sure. I do think it's definitely needed. I think we need platforms and communities that are nurturing the vision and are nurturing artists in general. So, you know, Voice of Artists in general, I think it is something that is highly needed, because there are a lot of, I would say, you know, there's a lot of social media out there. There's a lot of very superficial ways of presenting art or trying to sell art. But there's not a lot of platforms where their intention is really to try to share and help other artists out there, you know, find their voice, for example, or help them find their vision. So I would say that it's very important and very helpful what Voice of Artists is doing, and it'd be great to see other kind of projects or collectives. But the fact that your guys' already exists is a great sign and a great thing.
This entire thought stemmed from the Sanskrit phrase called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is a family. And I feel and I think and I hope that this is just the beginning, where actually art is such a powerful tool to make the world a family that it truly is.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I didn't obviously, I unfortunately haven't learned Sanskrit yet, but it's I do believe that as well. Again, I do believe that we're all connected to this energy, right, that kind of fuels this planet and that fuels us individually and even out into the universe. So yeah, it's something that resonates with me for sure, the fact that we're all the same, you know, we're all part of the same family, and we really should realize that, you know. And I think if we did and we respected that a lot more, and kind of almost held it a bit sacred, the connection between one another around the world would probably be even better. So, yeah, it's very nice to know that that's kind of the influence behind VOA.
Yeah. To end this conversation for just today, we will keep continuing having more VOA conversations with you. But to end this now, what would that 12-year-old version of Moses say to you today?
What would he say? I think he'd be shocked. A bit.
Shocked.
He'd probably say, "Wow." I think he would have. I think if he was 12 years old, the 12-year-old Moses would have been like, "Really? You're doing music?" Because I think when I was 12, I hadn't gotten into music yet. I was playing sports and skateboarding and doing a bunch of different activities as a 12-year-old, and so I think he would be rather shocked, I wouldn't say impressed, but pretty happy to say, okay, this is pretty cool where we are now. I feel good to know that hopefully at some point we'll be in this position.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Moses, for taking the time out and having this beautiful conversation with us, which we hope will touch hearts of many. And like I said, this is just the beginning, and the world is ours, and we hope that this energy of keeping art above charts spreads one conversation at a time. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, Megha.